Welcome back to another episode of the KarterKast. I'm your host, Karter Baughan. On today's show, college football Week 10 preview. We start off talking about whether or not college football playoff expansion is actually good now that we've seen it play out over 9-10 weeks of the college football season. We discuss which coaches we would want out of a trio to start your program. We also touch on Dylan's top 5 power rankings, my top 5 quarterbacks, and then we preview Ohio State, Penn State, and talk about some other games during the college football slate this week. And of course, at the very end, as always, we do the KarterKast Parlay. It's time to finally hit one. Download SeatGeek, use code KarterKast, $20 off your first purchase. Let's get into the show. College football Week 10. Dylan. Ohio State plays Penn State this week.
Big game. Big game. And it's a huge moment for the Buckeyes because this is their opportunity to finally have, like, at least be on the same level as Michigan in terms of ranked wins. Like, a lot of people are in the comments well, seriously, a lot of people are in the comment, oh, Michigan, they got 3 losses. They lost to, I had to go all the way to Wisconsin. Well, they had to go all the way to Washington. Oh, they lost to Washington. Buddy, Ohio State has yet to have a ranked win. So I don't want to hear about it until you have a ranked win. Spoiler alert, it's not coming this weekend.
Spoiler alert, it's not coming this week. All right. Well, that's not where we're starting off the show. We'll get to that later on, so stay tuned to the very end when we do our game previews for the Ohio State-Penn State game. I want to pose this question right now. All offseason, we have talked about how awesome the 12-team playoff is. We're like, this is great. We, equal opportunity, as Dylan likes to say. More people get in, more football. More football is typically a great thing. But is the expanded playoff actually a good thing, Connor?
I'm going to say yes, and I've said this since the preseason because I think the generic, most obvious answer is there's more football, and there's more football between good teams. Because in a year where we've talked about it the last few weeks, how there's no elite team, how there's no team that's head and shoulders above the rest in that 1A tier, why wouldn't we want 12 teams in the playoff this year? Because you look at the top 25 right now, you've got teams like BYU, Indiana, like teams that are undefeated, Iowa State, that are probably going to get in, but you've also still got the powerhouses that have 1 or maybe 2 losses. The Georgias, the Miamis are still undefeated, the Texas who has 1 loss. Like, all of these teams are going to get in. We don't have to miss out on, let's say Texas drops another one and then they don't get in, but they're probably one of the best 5 teams in the country. Then we don't have to miss out on that. So I think overall we get more meaningful games, and come December, people are going to love it. Anybody who's not bought in by now, I don't know what to tell you, but just wait till December.
And I think this year is a great showcase for the 12-team playoff because a lot of people who are anti-expansionists are saying this is terrible. Why should we see 2-loss Alabama versus 2-loss LSU? Why should these teams even be fighting for a playoff spot? They don't deserve this. They don't deserve this. But the thing is, all of these teams, 1 through 15, they can all beat each other. A BYU on a given day can go toe-to-toe with a Miami. A Miami on a given day can go toe-to-toe with Georgia. Anybody can beat anybody this year. I think that's why it's so great this year. But, and you mentioned it, Connor, there's not 4 elite teams or even 2 elite teams or even really 1 top-tier elite team. And when you have them all jumbled up, I feel like it would have been an even bigger disaster making this a 4-team playoff this year.
And if we had the 14 playoff, there would be so many teams left off that everybody would be up in arms about saying they should have got in. They should have got in. There would be probably 7 or 8 teams that had a legitimate shot to get in a 14 playoff that missed out if we had the 14 playoff. And I know that happens every year, but not. I think this is different.
I think you're right. We would be having those conversations in a 14 playoff, but I'm looking at the rankings right now, and I really feel like we're going to have a similar conversation with 12. Like, and
but it won't be as meaningful, I don't think. Because there's 12, not 4.
Because it won't be as bad.
A little less prestigious. It's like, a 2-loss team didn't get in. Doesn't really make me feel as bad as Florida State being undefeated last year not getting in.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like if you're 13, it's like, hey, you shouldn't have lost 3 games.
Right.
It feels a little more clear-cut than like let's say a 12-1 Big 12 champion BYU that finishes 5th, whereas like a second SEC team gets it. Like, we can argue about like the semantics of that, but like that's gonna piss people off. I think this makes people happier. It eliminates the what if. Like, I feel like in the 14 playoff, there's a lot of what if. What if this team had a chance? What if UCF truly won the national title? Like, we don't have to guess anymore. They get a shot. I think it's a win-win for everybody. It makes the regular season, a lot of people have argued that the regular season's devalued. No, I think a lot of teams are willing to go out and schedule better teams, knowing that they have a little bit more of a buffer. It's leading to better games. And, like, you know, you're not going to make, like, I hate that argument where it's devalues the regular season. It's like when Ohio State plays at Oregon, you think these teams don't care. When Alabama hosts Georgia, you think these teams don't care. Like, no, they really care. They want better seeding. They want to win. Like, I think the 12-team playoff is shaping up to be great. An expansion or, like, conference realignment in a way is, frankly, like, turning out to put a better product on the field, which is something that I was very skeptical of when it first started happening.
And that's what I was going to say real quick, Dylan, is the bigger conferences with the realignment, all of a sudden there's 16, 18, 20 teams in a conference. You don't play everybody anymore. Like, Miami's going to run through the ACC without playing the only 3 other undefeated teams in the ACC. Therefore, the 12-team playoff is necessary because then there's no test throughout the season. And it's like, well, Miami didn't play Pittsburgh or Louisville or whoever from the ACC, but that's not going to matter because they're going to make the 12-team playoff. But you can make that argument if it was a 4-team playoff that, you know, you play who's in front of you, but that would kind of be a point against them. It's like you didn't play anybody.
I agree with what you're saying. I think you're going to leave off better teams in a 4-team playoff. Obviously, I'm not going to refute that. But and this is going to get very muddy. We have a lot of season ahead of us still. But let's say Boise State wins out, Mountain West champion. They have one loss, their one real test to Oregon, and they get left out. Like, you can't tell me
they won't.
People are. I don't know. I mean, let's say Indiana beats Ohio State, Ohio State beats Penn State, and this is where it gets really muddy. There are opportunities where Boise State can win out, and they're still outside of that top 12. I guess if they are the conference champion, they'd be in
conference
there.
Champion. Group
I think
of 5.
they'd get the G5 spot almost certainly if they're 12-1 in that spot.
So what about?
And the storyline with Ashton Genty, they would get the nod. Like if you're going to put a G5 team in there, like you have to, you're going to want a team that's going to want to make some noise. You're going to get some headlines. Heisman candidate.
I'm not going to hate here. This is not a hate take. I understand I have a lot of hate takes, but this is not a hate take.
Rage bait, some would say.
Let's say BYU wins out, and a team like LSU, they lose. Their loss is what? USC, a good A&M team. And let's say they beat Alabama in 2 weeks, and LSU's left out. Is BYU better than LSU?
Then LSU shouldn't have lost to a not very good USC team.
Oh, but BYU's playing cupcakes all year, so
it's Kansas State cupcake.
You got one, I guess, sure, but we're going. What Kansas State 17th ranked?
SMU's not a cupcake.
No, not anymore. I just think there's a little back and forth here to where we're going to have this conversation of there are going to be teams that are left out because of the schedule that they play. I think we see it in the SEC the most this year. And they're we lost 2 games, but we lost to the 5th and the 12th ranked team in the country, and maybe we beat the 20th. I think there's going to be some backlash there. But I do agree with you, Connor. The leaving Florida State out last year, we're not going to have that specific situation again. It's not going to be undefeated teams being left out.
And that leads perfectly into our next segment, where if you place X team in a certain conference, how does it finish? Let's do that exercise right now. LSU's in the Big 12. Do they win the Big 12?
Yeah.
I think they do. I really think they do. Because who's top of the Big 12 right now? BYU? Iowa
State.
I mean, I'm putting LSU above both those teams. I hate to say it. I'm sorry. BYU seems like the team of destiny, but if you watch the games, LSU just seems like a better team than BYU. I don't know how else to put it. I could be hating.
I think it'd be closer than what people think, but you got to go LSU.
I think there's a lot of SEC teams you could say that about. A lot of those mid-tier SEC teams. Like if you put Ole Miss in the Big 12, are they winning it?
I don't know about this year.
I don't think so.
I think that team is. I think Lane Kiffin's looking at real estate in Gainesville, Florida, right now.
Wow.
Yes, that dude is not staying in Oxford, Mississippi. The other one I wanted to ask was, okay, let's say Miami goes to the SEC. Where are they finishing in the SEC?
I think they're in that mid-tier, like, who's in the
They're
middle right now?
They're in the Ole Miss range for me.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Like right in the Missouri, Ole Miss, maybe Arkansas. Here's the thing about Miami. I have a stat. The highest ranked defense they've played this year, Virginia Tech, 51st in opponent yards per game. You know how many SEC teams are above that? 11. 11 SEC defenses are above that. That is a damning stat if you're Miami. I think they'd probably be in that middle cluster right now with 2, maybe 3 losses even. As good as Cam Ward is, that Miami defense, I don't know. That's a damning stat.
Miami defense.
Just give it 50 to Louisville?
Pretty highly rated, though.
Just give it 50 to Louisville.
91.5 on PFF. So, and then again, you could come right back and you could say, oh, well, what?
Look at the offenses.
Yeah, look at the offenses they played. Sure. But I agree with you. When I thought of Miami and you brought this exercise to us, I literally thought Ole Miss, maybe not this year, but last year or 2 years ago, explosive offense, but no defense. The defense for Ole Miss is, especially the line, is a little bit better this year. But yeah, I thought the exact same thing. Or let's even say Big Ten. How does Miami fare in the Big Ten?
Third.
The Big Ten. Yeah, the Big Ten's a little down this year, but
yeah,
I think they're third.
I think third's a good answer there. I think they're
It's
maybe
just a
second.
different.
Maybe
it's such
first.
It's such a different style of football. That's the thing. Is it's
But we're
high
seeing
powered
that-
offense.
But we're seeing that different style of football work in the Big 12.
Yeah, sure.
Or Big 10,
100%.
sorry. Big 10, sorry.
Yeah, I would 100% agree.
It's kind of crazy. You see Miami Louisville have a 50-point each shootout at noon on a Saturday. Meanwhile, an Iowa game at noon on a Saturday is like a total of 13. It's just a stark difference.
I don't think the Big Ten commissioner would allow it.
I like the hypothetical of talking about Miami and the Big Ten, because I was looking, just perusing through the Big Ten, and I was like, an Indiana-Miami game would be pretty awesome.
Oh,
That would be a
That
pretty nice
matchup,
game.
that's kind of a sexy matchup.
They probably wouldn't
Guys.
play each other though. They would. Everybody just plays Purdue and Northwestern every week, and then your big ranked game is against Illinois.
Whoa! Wait a second.
oh shoot. Indiana,
Where?
legit or not?
Oh, just
are
in
we
general.
legit? Oh, yeah, are we legit? I'm sorry, I don't want to derail the conversation.
No,
We
you're
keep
good.
going. But we brought up Indiana. I think this past week against Washington, backup quarterback kind of showed me what I needed to see. I think that's what I needed to see to get over the hump on Indiana.
Do you feel better about them than like a BYU or an Iowa State or a Pittsburgh
Yes.
even? As far as
Yes.
those middle tier undefeated teams that we don't fully trust, is Indiana at the top of that tier?
Yes.
Okay.
I trust
100%.
I trust BYU a little bit more because I think they've played better opponents. But I see
Religious
what you're
values.
saying. Religious values, that's for sure. That's for dang sure, Connor. I trust BYU a little bit more. I have a little more faith in them. I know I can be biased, but I want to see Indiana play a good team. Is that crazy? I don't think Washington's a good team.
You'll get it coming up.
Ohio State.
Washington. I don't think Washington.
They're an average team. Like Washington and
They're good. I'll say
UCF
good.
are the same team.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would say Washington's a little better. I think people sleep on Washington. And that's not because they beat Michigan.
And I'm looking at their schedule, Indiana's schedule right now. They just haven't played anybody.
And you can say that for a lot of these teams. You can really go through the schedule for a lot of these teams and be like, who have they really played? That record looks nice, but if you really dig into it, where's the test?
Exactly, and we talked about that with Texas. I'm sure we'll talk about that later with some of the games we're previewing, but that's why I'm not as high on this Indiana team. But you're right, Dylan. We'll find out in 3 weeks' time.
So I'm going to ask Karter. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick while we're talking about that. I'm thinking about going. Man on the street, Indiana, Ohio State. Tickets are like $60.
They're
cheap,
worth
man.
it.
They're cheap, man. I don't think
That's
people
worth
have
it.
caught on yet.
That's so worth it. What were you going to ask, Connor?
I was going to ask Karter, you and Ben, as the BYU people on this podcast, where would they finish in the SEC? Realistically, if BYU's in the SEC, where are they finishing? Because right now, highest ranked defense they've played, Kansas State, which is 63rd, 12 SEC teams above that. So I'm just curious what you guys think.
Let me look at the SEC standings just to get a little frame of reference.
I think they're in that Vanderbilt, Florida, South Carolina tier, maybe that third tier. And I don't want to be a hater and say that, but I think that's the right answer.
Yeah, I think they're above Vandy. I think they're below Ole Miss.
Okay.
Think they're above Vandy?
Yeah, they're better than Vandy, I think.
I agree.
But you look at the SEC standings right now. I think Missouri's one of the most poopy teams in this country right now. I think they are a bad team, Dylan.
Not with Brady Cook.
Brady Cook has been terrible. Brady Cook has been one of the problems of this team this year.
They're not as bad as a 35-0 loss looks.
Sure, but he played against A&M.
That's fair. That's fair.
We've got Arkansas. Arkansas is a fine team, I guess, but I would still put BYU above them, but then I definitely put them above Oklahoma. Oklahoma stinks, guys. Remember when Oklahoma fans were like, "Oh, we're going to walk into the SEC. They don't know about Texas and Oklahoma." Oh my goodness, Oklahoma, they're terrible.
They're different down here. It's different down here.
Apparently it's different down here. Who has another team in another conference they want to bring up?
Army in the ACC.
That's actually a good one.
Fourth.
They would be. I mean,
I'd say fourth, like below Clemson and Miami, probably below I would say sandwich between SMU and Pitt.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's the right answer.
Sounds about right. Sounds about
they're
right.
at least fifth, which is absolutely nuts. That's a good one. Notre Dame? We can do Notre Dame for any of these.
Yeah, we can take our pick.
Notre Dame in all of them.
By the way, every bone in my body said, do not bet Navy. And I still did it. I was like, you know what? Too many people are on it. I don't know. Hurt.
Yeah.
That one hurt.
I only had it in the parlay, but
I'll take it straight.
What about Colorado in the SEC?
South
that
Carolina
little chuckle from Karter tells me all I need to know.
I'm going to tread lightly here. 4-8. I mean, no. Realistically,
they're not a bowl team in the SEC.
I don't think they are either.
Connor, you're telling me if Colorado was in the SEC, they'd go 4-8?
I'll give them 5-7.
That's very nice of you.
I'll give them 5-7 on a Shedeur 500-yard game. I'll give them 5-7.
Yeah, they have to have a nice non-conference where they're playing Ball Sack State, basically.
Colorado BYU, what's the line? Neutral field.
BYU by 1.5.
Okay.
I don't know. With the way Vegas does it, it'd be like Colorado minus 17.5.
Oh, don't even get me started on Vegas, Ben.
Yeah.
The disrespect.
Oregon in the SEC.
Dylan, this is your baby.
Can I go trust tree? Maybe not put this part out of the show. I still don't really know what we have with Oregon.
No, okay.
I still don't really know what we have. I like the offense is very good. 100% will buy into that. I think the offense is great. The offensive line is getting better and better as the weeks go by. Not great in coverage. Decent defensive line. I like the middle of the field defensively. It's really hard to tell. They've had one test. They passed. But in terms of their talent, I don't know. I don't know how it would transfer over.
I have another one.
Okay. Real quick.
Go ahead.
If Oregon plays one of these SEC teams with 1 or 2 losses in their first college football playoff game, are we betting against them?
Oh, 1,000%.
I think we are. Unless I see something in the next few games.
The one thing is, okay, it's got to be neutral field because Oregon's going to be hosting a playoff game.
Exactly.
Even if they lose in the
second round.
Yeah, it has to be the second round. And those are neutral site games, which that kind of stuff.
Well, if they win the Big Ten, it'd be the third round, wouldn't it?
No, it'd still be quarterfinals.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah, you just get the bye. Let me ask this, Dylan.
Okay.
Would Michigan win the Pac-12 this year?
Oh, no.
Conflicting style. So are you assuming that, Oregon this year is in the Pac-12?
Nope. I'm saying Washington State
and
Oregon State.
He's asking if they're better than Wazoo.
Then
That's
two
what he's
teams?
asking.
Yes.
Yeah, they would win that. Are you serious?
I don't know if they would win the Pac-12 this year.
Who's beating them? Did you see
Washington
the clinic
State.
that Davis Warren put on?
We saw what
Wazoo's
happens.
good.
We've seen what happens when Michigan has to travel to Washington. They can't handle it.
They have a quarterback retire. That's what happens.
No. I love that 2 to 3 weeks ago, Dylan's all Michigan fans are like, this is the guy. Fast forward 2-3 weeks, and the guy is no longer playing football.
I don't think it's very appropriate to laugh at somebody's injuries. So I thought we were better than that as a show. So maybe we work on that. But
no laughing at the injuries. Just laughing at the
5 concussions. But he retired because of injuries.
Well, he's 30, so I guess it's time to move on.
Who cares? I don't care how old he is. He
was
got
the right
injured.
decision. Just thought it was funny, Michigan fans.
That's right. Maybe you should wear a Guardian cap. Now, listen. Davis Warren 2.0 is the guy, cancer survivor. Maybe you guys can laugh at that next.
Give me Washington State to win the
Dylan.
Pac-12 if Michigan was in there.
Depends where the game's played. Is it at Michigan or is it at Washington State?
I think you play home and homes at that point.
Okay. Yeah.
Just back to back to back. It's like 4 or 5 weeks in a row.
You're like
Best of 5 series.
Michigan's in Corvallis.
Yeah,
again.
you just got beat by Washington State. How are you going to prepare for Washington State next week?
We're going to look at the film.
Anybody have one more before we move on?
Would Michigan win the ACC?
No.
I think the answer is no.
No. We couldn't beat Miami. I don't think.
I just wanted to make sure.
You couldn't beat Clemson.
We are Clemson. What are you talking about?
What? What are you talking
Michigan
about?
is Clemson. It's a bad quarterback, great defense. It's the same
He's
thing.
not bad.
He's not awful.
Cade's not great.
As much as I don't like Klubnik, he's head and shoulders above Michigan's quarterback room.
But
that's not true. Davis
Dylan, you make a decent point. We keep talking about, they haven't played anybody. They haven't played anybody. We're tricking ourselves into Clemson being good again because they haven't played anybody. Because we saw what happened.
They failed their first test.
They failed their first test horribly. And then you go through their schedule and it's like, Klubnik, he's putting up good stats. The offense is humming right now. They're dominating. Oh, they played Wake Forest. Oh, they played Stanford. Oh, they played NC State. Oh, they played
App
Florida
State.
I honestly, I don't think I've sometimes you're like scrolling through channels, you accidentally turn a game on, like you're just kind of scrolling and like, I don't think I've accidentally watched a Clemson game this year other than the first one. Like I think of the score bug, I can envision the score bug. I don't think I've seen Clemson since week 1.
Well, it's tough to watch games on the CW. I mean, it's like
nothing wrong with the CW.
No, I like the CW, but when it's Vampire Diaries leading into Carolina versus Virginia,
Hey,
they're trying to expand the demographic. They're trying to get the people watching Vampire Diaries. Oh, whoops! I accidentally didn't turn the channel. Now I got Cade Klubnik throwing for 500 yards over a blind defense.
All right, let's move on. This is another exercise I wanted to do. Let's take a quick break real quick. I wanted to try this exercise real quick. I'm going to name you 3 coaches, and you're going to tell me who you'd want to start your program out of those 3. I'll start
from scratch? Recruiting a whole team?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll give you 3 coaches. You tell me who you want to start your program with. I'll start with you, Dylan. Ryan Day, Brian Kelly, Mike Elko.
Not Ryan Day. I was, and this isn't Ohio State bias. I was an Ohio State Ryan Day defender up until the Oregon game, and last week he just embarrassed himself even more. Not Ryan Day. Mike Elko and Brian Kelly.
Yep.
I mean, I think you got to go Mike Elko. Brian Kelly just makes a fool of himself every week. He acts like he's somebody he's not, and I'm willing to overlook that if you win important games. And he hasn't even really done that. I think last year, Jane Daniels, 9 wins. This year, it's not looking great. I think a process of elimination would say Mike Elko.
Yeah, I think it has to be Mike Elko, too, Connor.
It has to be.
That's my answer, too. You look at what he did at Duke, building up a mid-tier program, and that's being generous. And they actually made some noise his last couple of years there. I think I would trust Mike Elko a lot more, especially just as far as future of the program goes, potential-wise, recruiting. Yeah, give me Elko.
Yeah. It's Mike Elko, especially considering the fact, as Connor said, the Duke aspect of it. That's massive extra credit in my mind to be able to turn around Duke immediately. And then, it's Mike Elko.
Let me do another one then. Mario Cristobal, Kalen DeBoer, Kurt Signetti.
Oh. Well.
I mean, I think the answer is probably Kurt Signetti.
Really?
There's a part of me that wants to go DeBoer.
DeBoer gets a little too much hate for the Bama stuff right now, which I think he's a good coach still. I think he'll be fine. But what Signetti's done in Indiana, you talk about starting a program.
Mario Cristobal has completely flipped this Miami program.
So you think it's Cristobal, Carter?
I've seen more bad things from Cristobal than I have the other 2 guys, though. In years past.
No. I don't think that's the case. I think the only bad thing we've seen from Mario Cristobal in years past is that Georgia Tech game, which was egregious. But I think that is so ingrained into everybody's mind. I think he's a phenomenal coach. Yeah, I don't think this Miami team's.
He's not the reason Miami's been disappointing, like all these other years.
He was only been there 2 years.
Or they've been disappointing, but. This is third, isn't it? I don't know.
Let me double check that. I'll get.
Yeah, this is year 3. This is year 3.
Yeah, they are going to win the ACC. They're going to go 12-0 in the ACC this year.
I think you do have to give him credit too. I mean, he went out and got who I would say is the best available quarterback in this transfer class too.
And you're probably right. Signetti turns things around quicker.
But here's why I'm saying Kalen DeBoer, and it seems like nobody's in this boat with me. He obviously gets a bad rap having to replace Nick Saban.
Mm-hmm.
But let's consider the fact in his first year, he beat a powerhouse in Georgia. And Signetti, we talked about Indiana, hasn't really been tested. Like, he did great things at JMU. It looks great. I fully believe in Indiana. But as of right now, Kalen DeBoer has that one cornerstone win in his first year at Alabama with huge expectations. And not to mention his time at Washington. I mean, he was a national championship level head coach. And then Mario Cristobal, I think Kalen DeBoer is 1A, but this is a much tougher decision to make than the previous one you just said, Karter, because that's process of elimination. I think you can make a case for all three of these guys.
Okay. All right.
So let's be clear. Ben and Connor said who?
I said Signetti.
Signetti.
I agree.
Signetti. Karter, you're saying Cristobal, and I'm saying DeBoer.
Stand on business, Karter.
No, I would switch to Signetti. DeBoer, I don't know. It's a tough question.
Karter, Dylan.
Oh, boy. A big day for you in a week, Karter.
Big day for me in a week.
Supporting your girl.
My girl?
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Women's tennis is back?
Iga Swiatek?
Oh, shoot. Okay, all right.
Should we do one more and then move on?
Let's do it. I kind of like this.
I don't know how this one's going to go.
Mac Brown.
Mac Brown, Joe Biden.
Coach K.
I mean, Coach K is the clear answer. I don't know what you Dabo, Sark, Heupel.
Oh, man.
That's a tough one.
I think I'm not going to go Dabo just because of the transfer portal stuff. Genuinely, in today's day and age, I don't think I want to start my program with somebody who doesn't believe in that.
Yeah, but that guy made Clemson
dilemma,
who they are, though.
He did.
Yeah, but but we're talking about someone to come in and start your program right now,
and I think he could do that. I mean, this guy was going toe to toe with Nick Saban. Nobody else was doing that in that era. LSU's had a little sprinkle. I mean, consistently, he was at the top for so many years, and I think he'll get back to that point.
You want to tell me let's start our program in 2015, then I'll take Dabo. But in 2024, I don't know if that's the right answer.
Then who is?
I agree.
Is that? I mean, process of elimination. I guess Josh Heupel. I don't know.
I don't hate that. I don't.
I think I like Heupel from an X's and O's standpoint the most, but I think Sark came in and just started recruiting dudes. Just brought in tons of talent. I think.
And how much of that is the Texas brand, though, or how much is that Sark? It feels like that's more the Texas brand.
Yeah, but they've been bringing in really high-level talented guys and being bad.
It's true.
And now they're good.
I'm going to say.
Go ahead.
I'm going to say Heupel just because we've seen him adapt. I don't think we can say the same about Dabo. Maybe we could say it about Sark, but we saw Heupel that had this high-powered offense in 21-22 and quickly realized, okay, this is great if we want to have 10-win seasons, but to elevate us, we need to build on the defense and we need to build on the run game. And he's done that this year. He's not oblivious to what needs to be fixed. Now, did that come at the cost of some of the offense? Sure, I'm not going to sit here and argue that. But he has done the most with what he can with a freshman quarterback, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. And the defense has improved tremendously. That's why I would take Heupel.
And Connor, I was just trying to play devil's advocate. I wouldn't choose Dabo in 2024, 2025. It would be Josh Heupel in my mind.
That's good hosting. Playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, had to. I think we give a little too much disrespect to Dabo.
Yeah, I think as a college football community, I think that's true.
Even though he is a weird guy.
But
yeah.
Coach Sweeney got that drip.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Yeah.
There it is. Yeah.
Hickory dickory dock.
All right, Dylan, what's your top 5 right now? Week 10 edition.
Week 10, top 5. We'll start bottom to top, as always. Number 5, Texas. Number 4, Miami. Number 3, Penn State. I think I dropped Penn State even though they won. 2 Georgia, 1 Oregon. Kind of not very exciting. We go first 5 out.
Go for it.
6 Tennessee, 7 Texas A&M, 8 BYU, 9 Notre Dame, 10 Clemson. You'll notice someone dropped out of that.
Well, that's interesting because I'm looking at the AP top 10 and or top 11. It looks like you got all of them in there except one team.
Is that true?
That couldn't have been intentional.
Well, then who did I... Oh, Clemson I put in that was on the outside.
Well,
look, I call it as I see it. We'll get into it. But look, Ohio State, their offensive line is banged up. Can't run the ball. Paid $8,000 billion for some running backs, and you can't run the ball. So until that, we'll figure it out this week. Can I say it right now? If Ohio State beats Penn State, I will have them in my top 10.
You're a saint. Generous.
What can I say?
I'm
not a big guy. I've always been an honest man, and we have a lot of people that rely on this show for their weekly college football content, and I don't want to let them down.
And their weekly so their top 5 is your top 5, is what you're saying?
I think they put a lot of stock into what I say. Now, is it pink sheets penny stocks, or is it blue chip Tesla stock? I don't know, but they're putting stock into it.
I'm waiting on the day that we get big enough as a show or have enough following to where people like love Dylan and agree with Dylan, and there's like this little mob of people that just like hang on every word Dylan says because they can fight back against the 95% of people that just come on our page to troll Dylan.
Do you think we'll have a Dylan's army?
I think eventually we will.
Like the Minifans, like the Kirk Minahan's guys that have burners
the people
everywhere.
that love Stephen Shea.
Yeah, the Che Hive.
Yeah, it's just like Dylan Lover 55.
As I've grown and matured over the 2 years we've done this show, I think there's support hiding in the shadows. But everybody thought Galileo. Go ahead.
You're saying there's a bunch of closeted Dylan supporters.
I think there are a lot of guys that like me that just haven't came out of the closet yet. If we're being honest. If we're being completely honest. Now,
you can quote card that one.
I've always said it. People thought Galileo was crazy when he said the earth revolves around the sun. The Catholic Church wanted him killed. But hey, he was right. And look, we base our whole science off of it now. So you want to say, oh, Dylan's crazy. I think there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, they don't want to publicly claim support because of the backlash that they might face. And I understand it. I'll stand up for us.
Top 5 quarterbacks, Week 10 edition. I think I have my 4 basically set, and then it's just, this is a disaster at number 5. Every week it's just a revolving door. Is it Jackson Dart? Is it Jalen Milrose? Or Will Howard? Who's it going to be? This week the revolving door, I guess it's Garrett Nussmeier, but I don't like it. I don't like Garrett
loss.
Yeah.
Loss. Carter, come on. We've been in this business for too long. You just put this Reed guy at 5. Let the people talk.
No. God, that's so true.
That is.
You put Arch Manning at 5.
Well, Quinn/Arch are still at 4.
Yeah.
And then it's Dylan Gabriel at 3, Shedeur Sanders 2, number 1 Cam Ward. He's by far the best quarterback in the country, in my opinion.
You won't see any qualms from me.
No qualms over there.
The quarterback position this year it's not like I don't know. Nothing has really impressed other than a few guys.
Yeah, I think and Gabriel, I still want to see Gabriel play on the road. I still haven't seen him play a real game on the road.
Well, this week, good defense. Good defensive line. He'll be running for his life.
I am going to be curious to see Gabriel this week against that defense, I will say. But anyhow, Michigan with no expectations. But we're not talking Michigan. Dylan, let's do some Ohio State, Penn State preview right now.
Why you say Dylan? There's Karter's here.
I know, but you've been sitting here just wanting to talk about this game.
He's been throwing like little underhand curveballs, like back.
What are you talking about?
You've been throwing little ESPN teases throughout the show. Well, you'll find out later. But spoiler alert: maybe I want to take Ohio State. Maybe I am going to take Ohio State money line. Oh, maybe Penn State will win by 4 scores.
When did I say maybe I'll take Ohio State money line?
You didn't.
When did I ever hint at that? Before we go Ohio State, Penn State real quick, I got to revisit this. What would my militia's name be? Like it would be like Dylan's Dudes, or it would have
Dylan
to be
Dogs.
Dylan's dogs, yes.
Yeah, that's it. Because it can't be Wilkerson anything because it's too long.
If you're watching Wilkerson's winners, Wilkerson's
whiners.
If you're watching this and you're part of the crew, go hashtag Dylan's dogs, DAWGS in the comments.
I hate to say it, if we get 2 of those comments, I'll be shocked.
Mom. So
one. Mom and your burner account. There you
go. Mom and my burner. There we go.
And Yagan 3.
All right, sorry. I was intrusive thoughts interfered.
No, that was good. Ohio State, Penn State, games in Happy Valley. It's a shame this isn't a night game, Dylan. Connor, this is a shame this isn't a night game.
This is big media. Stepping in. Big Fox at noon stepping in and saying, we're not going to allow this to happen.
Yeah, throw the ball.
If this game is played at 7:30 p.m., Penn State's a touchdown favorite.
Not a touchdown favorite. I do think
that caught me off guard.
I think the spread would be a little different if it was played at night. Maybe, or the line would move based on that. Just Joe Schmo's moving the line, but it's at 3.5 right now from what I've seen. Where are we going here?
I'm very excited first and foremost to have Gus Johnson on the call for this one. Just hearing him on the Nebraska call last week was huge. I want to answer your question with a question. Karter, you've been Mr. Ohio State this year. You've been Buckeye Baughan, and Connor has not as much. He's been on the Oregon train. Right now, heading into Week 10, they have a big game on deck. Do we feel any different about Ohio State now than we did preseason when we were doing the Big 10 preview?
100%.
100%.
Carter, you want to go first?
I can go first. Yeah, I feel 100% different because this run game is extremely concerning. They're not having success on the ground. That's what's been concerning. Everything else, yeah, there's some defensive things that should be shored up a little bit, but it's not as concerning in my mind. The fact that they haven't gotten this run game is not one of the best in the country is what is so eye-opening to me.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's the right answer because I was going to say I feel different for sure, but not necessarily too much worse. The run game I wrote down was my number one concern. If you pay that much money for 2 guys that are supposed to be 2 of the top, 8 backs in college football or something like that, you expect more. You just expect more production no matter what, bottom line. But Will Howard's been a little bit better than I thought he would be in some of these moments, in some of these big games. So that kind of not evens itself out, but it makes me feel not as bad because Will Howard has been better than I thought he would be preseason. And if you look at our preseason show, I said I think Ohio State splits with Oregon. And so if they beat them in the Big Ten title game, then I'm right on the money.
Well, if Ohio State loses, they very well might not find themselves in the Big Ten championship game, depending on how things play out.
True.
I don't think they could. I think they're cooked after that.
I think so too, because Penn State would still be undefeated. Yeah.
Because even if they beat Indiana, Indiana could still get in over them.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So, okay, it reassures me to hear that maybe there's some change in the thought about this Ohio State team. I think a lot of people, I've said it before, we get into this habit of thinking that teams are invincible when they aren't. We've seen weaknesses from Ohio State. It makes me happy to see that I'm not the only one thinking that. Hopefully it makes the viewers happy as well. Ohio State, Penn State, here's what I did. Both are averaging over 7 yards per play. They're both allowing less than 175 yards per game passing, both allowing 4.5 yards or less per play. I am going to go as far as to say that if Drew Aller plays, this is probably the best game of the season so far. In terms of anticipated matchup, I think on paper it's closer than Oregon, Ohio State. The big question here is going to be if Drew Aller plays, right? Drew Aller has graded out very well. I think Drew Aller is a better quarterback than Will Howard. I don't think that's a crazy statement to have. The keys here, Penn State has half of Ohio State's turnover-worthy play rate. Aller, I've talked about it before. Aller is much better under pressure than Will Howard. And hand up, I was the first to say I was wrong about Will Howard after the Oregon game. Other than the slip-up at the end of the game, he put that Ohio State team on his back. The run game, like you said, Karter, is unable to get any traction here. I think that's a byproduct of the offensive line being banged up. Ohio State's missing their starting left tackle. Their right guard left the Nebraska game early with injury. But Aller, much better under pressure. I think Penn State's going to create more pressure than Ohio State is on Penn State. And like you said, Ohio State, tons of trouble running the ball. We look at last week, guys, against a Nebraska team that is, I mean, they're not bad, I guess, but Judkins, just under 3 yards per play. Henderson, 2.5 yards per play. Will Howard had 2 turnovers, 1 fumble, 1 interception. Everything I said about Will Howard after the Oregon game, I take back because he just went and played Nebraska coming out of a bye and crapped the bed. He did not look good against Nebraska at all. And sure, you could say that's a byproduct of the run game not being able to get going. I'll wrap it up. I feel like I've been talking forever. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take it back to 2 weeks ago. Let's go by skill position. And holler at me if you think that I have anything wrong here. Quarterback with Drew Aller. Let's say Drew Aller, Penn State. Running back, Penn State.
It shouldn't be, but I will allow that.
Carter? That's maybe my one controversial one I have.
I think I would go running back Ohio State, but Penn State offensive line.
Okay, we'll get there. Wide receiver, I said Ohio State. Offensive line, Penn State. Defensive line, Penn State. Secondary, Ohio State. That's what I got. So here's any qualms there?
Yeah, it's tough whenever I'm assuming you're using PFF grades to help you with these numbers and stuff. And I'm sure the eye test as well, but it's also tough to determine this when, dude, Penn State hasn't played anybody. USC was their toughest game.
They have a 22nd ranked strength of schedule. Ohio State only has the 10th. Who's Ohio State played other than Oregon?
That's what we're saying. We've seen Ohio State. They've been battle tested already. Penn State. What? Who? Look, USC is not a good team. They're not.
At USC changes that game drastically.
And
that puts a lot.
Arguably, they should have lost that game.
But then coming back to win has to be noted. Like that was a good.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you.
We're talking about a 6-6 USC team. This is what we're talking about.
It looks worse now 2 weeks later. 100%.
It is. This USC team lost to Minnesota. They lost. This is not a good USC team.
Carolina beat Minnesota.
Yeah, so. Carolina.
That's another goalpost now. Transitive property.
Illinois is not a good football team. They have not had that elite test yet, and that's where my biggest concern is with Penn State. Year after year after year, has James Franklin ever won this game? Has he ever won this game?
Has Ryan Day?
Yes, he's beaten Penn State every time. This is not
this game specifically. He has won this game specifically.
He has this one specifically, but all we hear about is how Ryan Day doesn't win the big games. This is a bigger Ohio State Penn State matchup than we've seen in years. And you're confident in Ryan Day, the guy that's throwing a hissy fit at midfield against Nebraska. You trust that guy to win you this game? That's what we're doing right now.
I do more than
you trust him over James Franklin.
Tell me. Have you watched Penn State ever? When was the last time? When was the last time James Franklin won this game?
I don't know.
Never. That's the point.
Spoiler.
He never beat Harbaugh. He doesn't beat Ryan Day. He doesn't win these big games. That is the problem. And yes, this is different. This is probably his best chance to do it. This is Ryan Day. That seat is scorching hot in Ohio State and Columbus right now. Absolutely. But I don't know how you can have so much faith in James Franklin in this spot, because this guy has pooped the bed and peed his pants time and time again in these big games. And this is a much bigger game for James Franklin than it is for Ryan Day.
I think we're undervaluing Drew Aller with experience. He was not good last year. He wasn't good 2 years ago. But he's looking a lot better in year 3.
Let's say he's playing in this game. He's probably banged up even if he plays.
That was what I was going to say. If we're given the benefit of the doubt here, if Drew Aller plays, he's 100%. If you're giving me 80% of Drew Aller, I'm betting Ohio State. Like, I know Andy Kotelnicki has made this offense, Penn State offense, look wonders different than the last couple of years. But if Drew Aller's not 100%, which I'm led to believe he will not be, that has to be taken into account. I think I'm taking a 100% healthy Will Howard over a 75 to 80% Drew Aller. I am.
But you're taking a 100% healthy Will Howard with a 50% healthy offensive line and no run game. Penn State has a run game that has worked for them all year. They have a competent offensive line. Let's say Drew Aller doesn't go. Let's say he even doesn't go. Bo did not look bad against Wisconsin.
Let me ask you this.
Comparable stat line.
Okay, let me ask you this, though. What's the best defense Penn State's played? Wisconsin?
Probably, yeah. But you can't sit here and tell me that Ohio State's defense is a juggernaut. You're not going to sit here and tell me that.
They're better than everybody else they've played.
Okay. And that Ohio State's defense looked great against Western Michigan and Akron. That's what I'll say. They looked amazing. They have not looked good against any actual offense they have played. They haven't, and you can't say anything about that.
Nebraska.
Yeah. That high-powered offense they're running over there. Matt Rule got the boys going.
No, and that's 100% fair. But you can't sit – that's my problem when you're like, oh, this Penn State team, they grade so well on the offensive line and everything. But when you're going against bottom half defenses every single week, of course the offensive line's going to look good. Of course the defense is good. Ohio State graded out.
That's what two-way street here, Carter. Two-way street.
And just let me finish. That's what I'm saying about Ohio State going into that Oregon game. Their defense and their offensive line graded out pretty well because they played such terrible schedules. And then we saw once they went against an elite team, that's when, all of a sudden the grades start plummeting. I think we're going to see the same thing with Penn State in this game. And I understand, look, just because it always happens doesn't mean it's going to happen again. Just because Penn State always loses this game doesn't mean they're going to lose it again. History can switch all the time. But James Franklin is still there, and I just don't have faith in this guy at all. I don't have a lot of faith in Ryan Day. I think there's real problems there in Ohio State, but I have so much less faith in James Franklin winning this football game.
And it's not, I want to bring this point up too, it's not impossible to run on Penn State's defense. USC had almost 200 yards on the ground against them. It's not impossible. And I know Ohio State's run game has been very disappointing to say the least, but if they're a little bit better than what they've been, if Drew Aller doesn't play or he's 80%, that's all it boils down to for me. If we're not getting a healthy Drew Aller, I think that's the game.
Is it harder to run on Penn State's defense or Oregon's without their best rush defender? Is it harder to run on Penn State or Nebraska?
I would probably,
open discussion there.
Yeah, probably say it's probably harder to run against Penn State.
So what makes you think they're going to have any more success this week than they have the last three?
But your argument going into the Ohio State-Oregon game all week was, they haven't played anybody. This run game's not that good. Penn State.
I don't think I said that. I said Will Howard wasn't that good. I never said the run game wasn't good going into Oregon. I said Will Howard.
Run block.
Okay. All right. I've checked the tape, but okay, keep going.
We'll have to check the tape, but anyhow, I don't know. Give me Ohio State.
Yeah, you're going to take Ohio State. Yeah, give me Ohio State too. Yep,
Nope.
Go ahead. By 3.5?
Yep. Give me 3.5. Come on, Carter.
Yeah, give me Ohio State minus 3.5. Now, when Dylan's not looking, Connor, we're going to buy the half point.
Oh, yeah.
3.
Yeah.
Penn State ruins Ohio State's playoff hopes here. They ruin their chance at winning the Big Ten. It's all Penn State. I'm not going to make the mistake I made with Oregon and say 3 scores, but Penn State will beat Ohio State by 2 scores. It's not going to be close.
Okay. This with or without Drew Aller, though?
Either.
No, see, you can't say that.
Either.
You don't believe that.
I do. I really do. Bo did not look bad when he came in, even if Drew Aller's 80%. They're outmatched in the trenches. They're outmatched just about everywhere except wide receiver. And a little fun note: Parker Fleming revenge game for Penn State. He was
that
wide
really
receiver.
Scares me.
Yeah. Well, you Mr. Dog over there. I figured you have some kind of credence in this. All you ever talk about is revenge game and dog. So I figured I was trying to throw you a bone there, Carter.
No, yeah, but Parker Fleming's not a good wide receiver.
Okay, yeah, whatever. Penn State wins. They win big.
Julian Fleming, excuse me.
Yes, not Parker Fleming. I follow a guy on X named Parker Fleming. It's Julian Fleming.
You
Sorry.
Me up.
Julian Fleming revenge game against Ohio State. Penn State wins. They win by 2 scores. It's really sad time at Ohio State. They haven't been as good as advertised at any point. Oh, no, that's not true. Against Akron and Western Michigan and Marshall, they look great.
Give me Ohio State 21-17.
Give me Ohio State 24-17.
I'm going Penn State 34-14.
Oh, Dylan.
I don't see how you guys think this is close. If you want to say
does this line say Drew Aller's playing or not? Like, what would this line be if he was fully healthy? Is it still 3.5? I think yes.
I think so.
I think it's saying he's playing.
I think it's saying he's playing, and I would be surprised if he missed this game. But what if he's like 75%? You know,
that's true. That's true. If you want to hang your hat, if you want to say you're taking Ohio State, hanging your hat on the health of Drew Aller, I will not blame you. But if you're hanging your hat on Ohio State as the better team, and it's just not true. There's nothing true about that.
What if you're hanging your hat on James Franklin in this spot, not being good?
I mean, I would give more credence to that than Ohio State being better, but less credence than Drew Aller.
Then also another point too. I know this is a different season. I think he's improved dramatically. Drew Aller was very bad in big matchups last year.
Sure.
And has been throughout his career.
Well, that offense looks completely different this year. That's what I'll give.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why I didn't put too much into that. Where I'm like, okay, but
you want Will Howard or Drew Aller on your team? Healthy Drew Aller, obviously, not current Drew Aller.
Marcel Reed.
No.
Arch man.
Yeah, Arch. Yeah, give me
let's
Arch
deflect a little bit. Yeah,
let's deflect. Yeah, let's deflect. Isn't it hilarious? Pitt and SMU is one of the biggest games of the week.
Yeah, and it's a 7.5 point spread. Pitt's undefeated. What does that tell you?
I don't know. SMU was an 11.5 point favorite, and if you watch the game, my goodness, SMU should have won that game by 30 points. They won the game -6 turnover margin. -6 turnover margin, and
That's
lost
absurd.
the football game. Or won the football game. Sorry, I got that mixed up. Won the football game. That just shows how fraudish this Duke team is. I don't know how they keep even being close in these games. Malik Murphy's not a good quarterback, but we don't have to talk about Duke in the ACC right now. I just think it's crazy that sneaky Pitt SMU is a playoff match. Is a sneaky playoff deciding matchup.
And I'll be honest.
Yeah,
I'm not thrilled. I'm not going to be thrilled with either of these teams making the playoff. We talk about 12-team playoff and what's exciting, but
both of these are massive double-digit underdogs.
I think so too.
Which kind of stinks. And hopefully they're just like ACC, Miami, Clemson go in there. I'm hoping SMU. Part of me kind of hopes SMU falls on their face a little bit, and then like they win this week and then lose the next week, and so we can just eliminate SMU and Pitt. But Oregon, Michigan this week. This was going to have a lot more love. What more excitement at the beginning of the season. Now it just does not at all. It feels like Oregon's playing Iowa.
This is the Dillon Bowl.
It really is. This is
the Dillon Bowl.
This is what I would classify this as a can't lose spot for Dillon. No matter who wins this game, I cannot lose.
Or is it a lose-lose?
If Oregon kicks a game-winning field goal looking like crap the whole game, that might be a lose-lose.
Yeah, Oregon in a close one, I guess, wouldn't be ideal.
But you're rooting for your team to lose by a ton. Wow.
I didn't say that. Fan. No, I didn't say that. I just said it was. I said it was a win-win.
But you said it wouldn't be good for you if Oregon won in a close one. But you're implying that if Oregon won in a blowout, it would be good for you.
We also are saying if Oregon wins in a close one, it's a lose-lose. But if it's a low-scoring game, I would feel the content we would get out of the lead up to Michigan, Ohio State would be insane because I would actually have hope. I would have hope if Michigan's defense keeps Oregon to like 14 that Michigan could beat Ohio State.
Oh, say that. Say Michigan. Say Oregon won't score more than 10 points on Michigan.
Oregon won't score more than 14 points on Michigan.
Clip it, aggregate it, hurry.
Listen. Okay, serious note. I'm assuming you guys didn't watch the Michigan game last week. And I understand this is not as exciting of a game as it looked like it was going to be heading into the year. Davis Warren, and I don't know who the offensive coordinator is off the top of my head, but he was on the field last week for the first game. He was not in the box, and they drew up trick plays. You had Donovan Edwards throwing touchdown passes. Has a perfect passer rating through his 3 years at Michigan, by the way. And Davis Warren was, they were drawing up things to get guys open. It was the first game we actually looked like we had a competent offense. Now, is that exposing Michigan State's really bad secondary? Is that a sign of things to come? I don't know. Do I think Michigan's going to beat Oregon? As much as I would like to say yes and have the clip get 500,000 views and actually care about if Michigan wins or not, I can't sit here in good faith and say Michigan's going to win. So everybody that says rage bait, use this as your sample size because I'm not going to rage bait you here. However, I will say there is a path. The path is small. The path is narrow. But I think that Michigan's defensive line, if we can stop the run, force some pressure, I think the defensive line can keep us in this game. Now, if they want to go over the top of us like they did against Ohio State and we're not able to force pressure, we're going to have some problems because Will Johnson he's going to be injured for the rest of the year and he's not going to play, and the secondary doesn't look great after that. So
you only mentioned one side. You only mentioned one side of the ball. There's two sides of the ball in football. I don't think there's a path with this offense.
Yeah, there's a path. Oregon. So, in all seriousness, Oregon can't score more than 14. That's the path. I mean, that's the path. I think we can run the
road
ball.
less traveled. Robert
We
Frost.
can run the ball, and if we get Robert Frost. Shout out Frosty. If there's a path, if the offense looks like it did against Michigan State, and we get one passing touchdown out of Davis Warren. Davis Warren wasn't missing throws, which we did not see at the beginning of the year. But I think that says more about Michigan State than it does Michigan. So there's a path, but it's narrow.
Georgia, Florida, I think is a very interesting game this week. Neutral site in Jacksonville, rivalry game. Florida's messed around with a 4-3 record.
Yeah.
Georgia's looked shaky at times this season. Billy Napier fighting for his life right now. We saw Florida go down to the wire with Tennessee. Who's to say they can't do it against Georgia in a neutral field?
I think this game could be a lot closer than what people think. I think you're right. That's what I'll concede.
I'm going to have a very, very close eye on this game. I'm very excited about it. Lagway has to get a lot of yards on the ground for them to even have a chance in this game. So, also, I'm finally home this weekend. I'm not traveling. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to sit on my couch and watch football. I hate watching. I hate watching football at restaurants, bars, anywhere else other than the comfort of my. I don't even like going to casinos and sports books to watch them. I just want to watch them at my house.
Ideal setup is playing blackjack and having the dealer or the pit boss turn on whatever game you want to watch on the TV that's in the pit.
Yeah, but during like a big Saturday, Sunday slate, you need all the games on and you want to be able to look at everything. One game, like that's nice for like a Thursday night football game. You're playing blackjack, watching Thursday night football, but I don't like it for other purposes.
I will say in our SEC preview, I said Florida's win total was 4.5, so we're struggling here. They have some tough games coming up, or at least they look tough at the beginning of the year. Would not be surprised if Florida wins this at all. Georgia, I don't think Georgia's a bad team, but they're missing the weapons, and Beck hasn't looked good. Yeah, it would not shock me if you tell me on Saturday night, Florida beat Georgia.
I'm going to name a game. Tennessee. Yeah. I'm going to name a game. You're going to tell me if they're on upset watch or not, okay? Obviously, okay. Florida, Georgia, we all think Georgia's on upset watch.
Give us the spread, too, if you have it.
Georgia, 16.5.
Georgia's on upset watch.
I think so, too. Louisville, Clemson. Is Clemson on upset watch as a 10.5-point favorite?
No.
I don't think so. I think this Louisville team is very fraudulent.
Yes. I think they're extremely fraudulent. I also agree there. Kentucky, Tennessee. Is Tennessee on upset watch in Knoxville, 16.5-point favorite?
No, they're wearing the all blacks. They're going spooky Rocky top.
Yes. Yeah. No, not at all.
I'm keeping my eye on that one. They might be on upset watch. I don't even know this is upset watch because of this line. A&M's at South Carolina. A&M's a 2.5-point favorite.
Every bone in my body says take South Carolina.
And I will. And really? I'm taking South Carolina.
Yeah, I think so too.
They are telling you what's happening in this football game. But I don't know. I've been burned on that before, so you never know. A sneaky one. Kansas State at Houston. Kansas State's a 13.5-point favorite.
No.
I'm going no as well. Yeah.
I don't think Houston can pull off back-to-back upsets. So
yeah.
And then last one, 2 more. I'll go quick. Indiana, Michigan State. Indiana minus 7.5 on the road.
No.
I don't think so. The Michigan State.
Absolutely not. That secondary is so bad.
And then last one, Texas Tech at Iowa State. Iowa State's minus 14.5.
No.
Nah. I think Iowa State.
I think they are.
They rolling that.
You think they are?
I think Iowa State's 1,000% on upset watch. I think Iowa State. People keep
Are they on upset watch every week?
100%. People keep giving Iowa State the benefit of the doubt in all of these games. They haven't played a soul. Like, people want to be like, oh, BYU, why are they up there? Maybe this is BYU bias here. They barely beat UCF at home. They go toe-to-toe with Iowa. Rivalry game, but Iowa's not a great football team. And then who else have they beat? North Dakota, Arkansas State, Houston, Baylor, West Virginia. Meh. I mean, there's not a real ranked win in there. Iowa, you can say that's a ranked win, but they weren't that good. We know who they are now. So I don't know. Iowa State, I think they're complete frauds in my mind, and I'm taking Texas Tech plus 14.5 for the parlay this week.
Ooh. That is a lot of points.
Should we just roll into the parlay and get out of here?
I think we do.
Can I drop a nugget that just came across my desk for the Penn State-Ohio State game?
Yeah.
Since 2016, Ohio State is 3-6 straight up and 2-9 against the spread in top 5 matchups.
Okay,
Oof.
But what are they? So they're straight up in top 5 matchups?
Straight up in top 5 matchups, they're 3-8 since 2016.
Okay. I don't know if this is a real top 5 matchup. I don't know if Penn State.
What the heck? What does that even mean? There's a 4 next to there's a 3 next to their name.
Hear me out. I want to know who those top 5 wins were against. I know Notre Dame was 1. I think the others were Penn State.
Yeah, probably. Okay. Well, one was Michigan. 16 was Michigan.
Was it? I don't remember.
Yeah, it was.
So then it would have been. I don't know. AP. At least we're done with the AP this week. But yeah, let's do the parlay. Obviously, my pick's Texas Tech plus 14.5. Ben has picked Duke plus 20.5 as he had to leave early from the show. Connor, what's yours?
I am going to do something I have not done yet this year, and I'm going to go to the Carolina game at Florida State, and I'm going to take the over 49.5. I think both these defenses are horrible. Carolina, they played all right against Virginia, actually, only allowed 14, but they did just give up 41 to Georgia Tech, 34 to Pitt, 70 to JMU a few weeks ago. And then you look at Florida State, gave up 36 to Miami, 29 to Clemson, 42 to SMU. I just think these defenses are bad. It's going to be one of those shootout games that really doesn't matter in the ACC, but it'll be fun to watch. So give me the over 49.5, Carolina, Florida State.
Dylan.
Going Penn State, Ohio State, over 46.5. It's the antithesis of my being, but I think Will Howard's going to have to get it done in the air if he wants to get it done, and I know Penn State will get it done in the air.
Wow. Over. Everyone's going to see this and go, oh,
Hacked.
what?
Hacked.
No, they're going to think, did Karter put that in?
Dylan's dogs aren't going to like that.
They will not. There's going to be a mutiny at the kennel. It's going to be bad.
At the kennel?
It's going to be bad. They're going to. I'll send out that tweet. It's have a PS5 I want to give away. Blah blah blah. I'm keeping the Xbox though. Kissy face. Dylan was hacked.
Anything else before we go?
Can't believe it's week 10. Can't believe we're about to be in November.
I know. We're getting the college football playoff rankings next week.
Oh, I can't wait. That'll be some
awesome.
talking points. Yeah, that'll be some talking points.
And then we'll finally see, how they actually value like the Big 12, the ACC. Oh, are
Spoiler.
they going to put? No, they don't. Are they going to put 8 SEC teams in the top 10? Who knows? But anyhow, all right, that's it from us. Make sure to follow at KarterKast on everything. Follow our socials. Subscribe. Download SeatGeek. Use code KarterKast. $20 off your first purchase. We'll be back tomorrow for the NFL preview show. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.